If you've said it 3 times and it's still not landing, this is the final part of a short 3-part series on why everything still comes back to you and what to do when it's not improving. In the first episode, we looked at why you might still be doing too much yourself. In the second, we explored why your team starts waiting instead of stepping up. And in this episode, we're going to get practical. Welcome to How to Lead, the podcast for CEOs, founders, and leaders who want some clear tools, techniques, and strategies to help them lead well so their teams thrive and results follow. My name's Kate Waterfall Hill. I'm a leadership coach with hands-on experience in board-level roles for numerous businesses, agencies, and consultancies for over 30 years. If you like my take on leadership but would like more support to actually put my ideas into practice, take a look at my website, waterfallhill.co.uk. If you've explained something multiple times and it's still not landing, how do you diagnose what's actually going on and fix it properly? This is a very real frustration that I see often when I talk to leaders. You've explained it, you've clarified it, you've modelled it even, and yet it still isn't happening. But before we kick off properly, let's see what Linda has to say.
I don't understand it, Janet. I've told her 3 times and she's still not getting it. What have I said? Well, I just said it needs to be better. More premium, less, like it is. And I've said it so many times now, it's ridiculous. It's just not sinking in. Have I shown her what to do? No, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to sit down and walk her through an example. She should just get it instinctively. I think I'll just redo it myself or tell her a 4th time, just slightly louder.
Ah, yes, there is a particular kind of weariness, isn't there, that comes from repeating yourself. It's not always a dramatic kind, it's often a quiet, internal kind. The moment when you open a document or sit in a client call and think, we've already covered this. Maybe it's about pricing discipline. Maybe it's about not over-servicing. Maybe it's about escalating earlier rather than firefighting later. Or in many creative businesses, it's about something more personal. You read the copy and think, that's not our tone. You look at the design and think, it's fine, but it's just not quite right. You rewrite it again and wonder why it keeps happening. But there's often a point that most leaders don't want to say out loud. If you've said it 3 times and it's still not happening, the issue is probably not communication alone. The real question you need to ask yourself is this. Is this a clarity problem, a capability problem, or a consequence problem? I'm going to take these in turn. Firstly, is it actually clear? When something keeps being done wrong, our instinct is often to assume that the person isn't listening. But clarity is a bit more slippery than we think, particularly with things like creative standards. So if you might say, it needs to sound more like us or me, that doesn't feel premium enough, or it's not sharp. What does that actually mean operationally? Have you defined tone of voice beyond adjectives? Have you shown side-by-side examples? Have you explained what too corporate looks like, or what too safe sounds like, or what on-brand actually means sentence by sentence? And many founders believe that they have been clear because they know what they mean. But it isn't the same as the team really knowing what you mean. Yes, absolutely, brand guidelines help. So do examples. But even those don't transfer instinct automatically. If the expectation lives mostly in your head or in your heart, people are left guessing, and guessing leads to near misses. So the first question isn't, why can't they do it? It's, have I translated my instinct into something teachable? If not, you might need to slow down and articulate more specifically what good looks like. And I don't mean through a 40-page document. I mean through real-time coaching. It might take you a bit of time and energy, but it'll be worth it in the end if you can genuinely let go of the tasks that you need other people to do, because you need to be doing something else, leading, being strategic, making those top-level decisions. Right, let's move on to point 2. Is this actually a capability gap? And this sometimes can feel uncomfortable, particularly in creative environments. Sometimes the work isn't quite right because the person genuinely doesn't have the same taste, judgment, or craft level as you. Now, that doesn't make them useless. It may simply mean they are earlier in their development. Now the question becomes, can this be trained? With tone of voice, the answer is often yes, but not through instruction alone. You train tone through immersion and feedback. You sit down with them and rewrite together. You explain why you changed a phrase. You show them the nuance between confident and arrogant. You explain the rhythm of a sentence, not just the vocabulary. And as I said before, it takes time, and there can be tension in that. As a founder or senior creative, you can usually rewrite something in 10 minutes that might take a team member 2 hours. And it feels somehow more efficient just to do it yourself. But then if you always rewrite instead of teaching or coaching, you're choosing speed over scale. You're holding back the other person's growth. You're reinforcing their dependence on you. At some point, you're going to need to decide, do I want this done perfectly now or done independently later? And that is the leadership choice, not a talent judgment. However, this is important. Sometimes the gap doesn't close. Even after structured feedback, really great modeling, coaching that you spend time on, the work still consistently falls below the required standard, in which case you might well have a capability mismatch. And that is not cruel to acknowledge. If the brand genuinely requires a very particular voice and that voice cannot be replicated at the necessary level, you have to decide whether the role is wrong for that person or whether your expectation is too narrow. And this brings us to the third, deeper question. Is this about identity? For founders especially, tone of voice and creative quality are not neutral. They feel so personal. You built the brand. You shaped its personality. Clients associate it with you. So when something doesn't sound exactly as if you wrote it, it feels like dilution. But there's a leadership dilemma in here. If the brand can only ever sound exactly like you, it cannot outgrow you. At some stage, you must decide whether you're building a personal brand or a scalable one. And that doesn't mean accepting lower standards. It means deciding whether different but strong is acceptable or whether identical to me is the only measure. And I'd urge you, be really honest with yourself here. Is the work genuinely not good enough? Or is it just not your work? These two are different things. If it's genuinely weaker, that's a development or a performance issue. If it's simply different, the question becomes whether your leadership allows evolution. Now, moving on to the consequence gap. I want to step away from creativity for a moment. In operational matters, say pricing discipline, scope creep, escalation timing, repeated failure often comes down to consequence. If nothing changes when behavior continues, behavior continues. You can explain margin importance repeatedly. You can remind people not to discount too quickly. But if discounting carries no review, no accountability, no visible impact, the system does not require change. And consequences don't have to be really dramatic, but they do have to be consistent. So if overservicing damages profitability, review account margin openly. If scope creep continues, require written approval before additional work begins. Put a new process in place. If brand standards are repeatedly missed, reduce autonomy until capability is proven. Calm, structural consequence is far more powerful than frustrated repetition. So as always, I like to give you stuff that you can do this week. If you're tired of saying the same thing, here's a structured reset. 1. Choose one recurring frustration, not 5, just 1. Be really specific. For example, copy doesn't reflect our tone, or discounts are agreed too quickly. Position matters. Then 2, diagnose it properly. Ask yourself honestly, is the expectation operationally clear? Have I trained the skill properly? Is there a real consequence attached? And write the answers down. You might well see the gap really clearly once it's written. Then 3, if it's clarity, demonstrate, not just describe. Instead of sending another email, sit down together and work through an example. Show the edits. Explain the judgment behind them. Make your thinking visible. And actually going through that process, you might realize that your judgment isn't necessarily the right thing. Creative instinct becomes teachable when you articulate why you changed something. And if you can't articulate it, maybe you don't need to change it. 4, if it's capability, I really encourage you to invest deliberately. Give structured feedback, set measurable improvement goals, and review again in, say, 2 weeks. If improvement is minimal despite support, confront the possibility that the role and the person may not match. That is leadership. It's not a failure. It's how you lead well. 5, if it's consequence, attach one calmly. Decide what changes if the behaviour doesn't. Not emotionally, but structurally. And once agreed, stop re-explaining. Refer back to the standard. Consistency builds credibility. The tension that so often comes up between standards and scale, between personal instinct and team capability, is one of the most common leader dilemmas I work with. I help founders, CEOs, and senior leaders through my one-to-one coaching, and we also unpack these sorts of issues really, really cleverly every single week in the Leadership Accelerator. Here, leaders who are overwriting instead of teaching, we help unpack that. We clarify non-negotiables versus preferences. We build feedback frameworks that really raise standards without crushing confidence. And sometimes we confront the hard truth that not everyone can operate at the level required for a specific organization. Leadership maturity includes knowing when to coach, when to adjust expectations, and when to change roles. If you find that you're repeating yourself and getting the same outcome, not the one you want, then perhaps you need to change something. Change the input to change the output. As a final thought then, if you've said it 3 times and it's still not happening, pause before you explain it a 4th time. Ask yourself, is it unclear? Is it untrained? Or is it unenforced? And then act accordingly. Because leadership is not about saying it one more time, it's about making it real. That's all for today's episode of How to Lead. Until next time, if you want to be less like Linda, keep leading with clarity, care, and curiosity. If you've enjoyed this episode, do follow for more, subscribe, spare a moment to like, leave a review, share with your fellow leaders. It all helps spread the word about the How to Lead podcast. If you'd like my personal support, take a look at my website for more information, waterfallhill.co.uk. The best leaders are clear on their vision, care about their people, and approach interactions with curiosity, not judgment. Until next time, don't be a Linda. Thanks for listening.